It's 2024, and if you want to get your shit together in your business, then you need to mind the gap. Right now, you can grab an early bird bonus when you enroll in my digital bookkeeping course, Mind the Gap. Visit my link tree in the show notes to enroll, and you'll be invited to book a one-on-one virtual call with me. We're going to strategize and set you on the path for financial success in your business. This call is free for new students of Mind the Gap, and it's currently a $500 value. The course will be available starting in May 2024, but don't wait to grab your free bonus and get into our online community. Everyone who enrolls in Mind the Gap right now will receive an exclusive invitation to join our virtual community. I'm going live in there twice a month to teach you valuable financial content, answer your business questions, we're co-working together, and you'll be able to network with other entrepreneurs who are doing this work too. All of my clients are there already, and we're so excited to meet you. Visit the show notes to get enrolled in Mind the Gap today. I'm here today with Shah. She is a sales coach, systems coach. Man, I'm fucking that up. Sorry.
Okay.
Ro, please tell us who you are, what you do, and what kind of business you have.
Hi, I'm Ro. I am a sales systems coach for women of color entrepreneurs, specifically in the financial industry. So I help your accountants, bookkeepers, CFOs, money coaches. Basically, if you're a woman working in money, around money, I work with you on how to get more sales and get more leads into your business.
Yeah, and that's me, right? I'm a bookkeeper. I've been an accountant for 10 years. And when I first started my business in 2022, I founded my online accounting firm. I work from home. It's a virtual office, basically. I definitely had the issue of like, I'm really good at what I do. I know what the fuck I'm talking about when it comes to money and bookkeeping and taxes and all that. But holy crap, now I got to figure out how to sell. Now I got to figure out like telling other people about what I do and not convincing them to hire me, but just like making the offer and making it in a way that communicates the value of what I provide. So I appreciate you reaching out to me to be on because I see your messaging as so much in alignment with what I talk about here on the podcast and just my business values as a whole. Really, what it comes down to for entrepreneurs in the United States, for women, for people of color in the United States, we can't make what we want to make in terms of income working for somebody else. And so I looked at your social media and everything, and I saw that message too come through. And I was like, well, yes, please apply. Let's have you on the show. So can you talk a little bit about what inspires you to do this work, and how you see finance intersecting with those kinds of oppressive systems and identities in the United States and how we can kind of liberate ourselves from that.
Yeah, well, I can definitely talk about my experience. So I used to work in fintech and in New York City, and the whole reason I got started in helping financial experts is because we, as a consultant at that time, we were putting a lot of money into like these white guys on Wall Street.
Yeah.
They were spending millions of dollars in publicity. And
Mm,
my whole life, everyone in my family is in the banking industry. My uncles, my
mm,
aunts, my mom, my dad, they're all in the banking industry. My dad was a previous CPA. And I had a lot of financial knowledge, but I didn't learn it from the people on like CNN or MSNBC or any of the news channels. I learned it from the women of color in my family. And
mm,
the biggest issue I noticed is I didn't see anyone that looked like me or my friends on
mm,
on books, on TV shows. And it made me even more upset when I was working my 9 to 5 and I was like, we're throwing all this money at these rich white guys. And I was just like, what is happening? Because they don't have the nuance of understanding what it's like to be, juggling multiple things.
mm,
Like you said, kind of going through life without some of the privileges that other people may not
mm,
have. And I was like, more women of color need to be giving financial advice, financial
mm,
expertise, and just women in general too. Like I wanted to see more women at the top of the industry who had their names, on Forbes, on like the TV channels, and they're the ones that are giving advice because we have a nuanced stance
mm,
on, you know, how to spend our money, what's
Yeah.
important to us, what to invest in, whether that's family, education, all of that. And that's why I do what I do, because I was
Mm.
like, uh, more bookkeepers, accountants, and money coaches, they need to have the tools to really make more sales, to be at the top of the industry, right? Like
Yeah.
money to have that power to like really show up in the ways that you want.
Yeah, I think as women, and I'm sure it's the case for people of color as well, that you wind up in the industry some way or another, but you get questioned about like your legitimacy for being there. I
As
had a conversation with somebody who's not a CPA, but he's an EA, which is an enrolled agent that is kind of like similar to a CPA, but it's licensed through the IRS, whereas CPAs are certified through a state system. And I was just having like a one-on-one like meeting, like get to know you kind of session with him. And he was like, well, what kind of like certifications do you have to be a bookkeeper? And I'm like, none. I just kind of know how to do it. Like I just got a job in it and learned how to do it. And now I have that skill set because it's a learned skill. And he was like, oh, well, you should really look into like the National Bookkeeper, whatever association. I don't even know because I don't care. And I was like, uh-huh, sure. Like whatever you say. And just like that moment really stuck out to me. I was like fresh out of college and honestly had trouble even calling myself an accountant at that point, and then to have it literally be called into question by another accountant, and then like it kind of gives you a little bit of a complex, like, yeah, who am I to be here in this position doing this work?
I 100% agree. And one of the mottos that I tell all my clients and the tenants I live by is that if you're a woman, or a woman of color, like you're more credible. Your experience alone makes you more credible than anyone on Wall Street. I truly believe
Mm,
that just your life experience makes you more credible than
mm.
anyone that just got a job at an investment bank.
Yeah.
Through because you lived it, right? Like you
Yeah.
put in the effort, you put in the hours, and you know what you're talking about. I think
Hmm.
a lot of people don't give enough of credibility to that. And it's worth so much. But if it's not on a piece of paper, a lot of people don't recognize it as important.
Totally. And there are definitely licenses and certifications that some people need to have in order to be in a role. Like lawyers, you'd probably want them to pass a bar exam and stuff. And accountants, like CPAs, have a certain level of licensing that they go through and like education requirements and all that. And I think that is totally valid. And it is also the case that you can just be an accountant and just say that you're an accountant or just say that you're a bookkeeper. And that field is truly open to anybody to step in, and just call themselves that, take money from other people, provide a service. So it does require us to really show that we know what we're talking about, really communicate value to clients, and convince people, not convince, but like just show somebody like I can help you with this specific project or this specific problem that you're having, or I can take over this kind of work for you in your business so that you can free up your time, and I'm qualified to do that. And there's so many different ways that we can qualify ourselves to future clients. Now you're a systems coach, and I want to get your take on what you think of when you think of sales, or how has that shifted over time? Did you start out as most entrepreneurs do, where they're like, sales, I don't want to be like the used car salesman. I don't want to have that like icky, pushy feeling. Like, how has that shifted for you? Or was that your experience in the beginning?
That's really funny because I just got a new car, so I've had a lot of experience with car
You've just
salesmen.
been through
I just
it.
went through it. And my how I really look at sales now after teaching so many concepts about selling in the first place is it's just engaging with someone and having a
Mm,
conversation, right? You're
yeah.
not trying to take their wallet or anything like that. Or like
Right.
have that thought in their head where there's like a car salesman that's pushing you against the wall and be like, give me your money. I'm
Yeah.
gonna, you know, but it's not
That's
that.
called
I think
being robbed.
yes, exactly. I think a lot of people think of being salesy as exactly that, like that
Mm,
sleazy car salesman. And what I teach a
mhm.
lot of my clients is you're just learning more about the other person and if you can help them. That's
Yeah.
all. And if you
Mm.
can't help them, just leave. Just end the call. With my clients, I actually hated when I came into entrepreneurship, I remember there was only one way to make money at that time, from what I knew, which was to just post on social media all day, every day.
Yeah.
And I had an extreme fear of being seen. I remember I
Mm.
posted my first Twitter thread about my story a couple years ago, and I deleted it like an hour later because
Yeah.
I I started dry heaving. Like I couldn't deal with the
Yeah.
attention. It was too much for me. So I was like, what do women do to make money if they don't want to post on social media?
Mm.
And I realized I would say like the first six figures of my business all came through DMs and conversations, right? All I did was message people and see if we were a good fit. I wasn't trying to push anyone to purchase my services or anything like that if they
Mhm.
weren't a right fit. And I think selling is basically like in layman's terms, selling is just having a conversation with someone. That's how,
Mm.
if you're putting all
Yeah.
this pressure on yourself to be perfect, then that makes you that sleazy car salesperson.
Yeah, and, like, making it mean something about yourself if you don't get a sale or if you don't close a sale, like, "Oh, well, that must mean that I'm not qualified," or, "That must mean what I offered isn't valuable," like, they don't think it's good enough or whatever, they don't wanna pay that money for it, so yeah, I agree totally that it's about having a conversation and engaging with a potential client to see like, are you running into this type of problem? Because I help people all the time do this and like I can do it much faster than you probably, or I have so much experience to draw on that we can really solve this together in a concise way without you having to reinvent the wheel. And I love when I'm having a conversation with somebody or a sales call or something or a consultation, like asking them, like, what are you really struggling with right now? Like, is there something that we could do like right now that could solve a problem for you or make you feel a little bit better about your position in your business? So I love that.
I think something that you just said, which is interesting, is just getting to the root of the problem. And
Mm.
what I think a lot of really successful people in entrepreneurship see the differences is people who try to sell corporate. Like imagine you're at your 9 to 5 and you're typing an email. As per my last email, it's passive aggressive. It feels slimy. Like you're like,
Yeah.
how am I talking? You know? And then on the other side, that's corporate. On the other side is cultured, right? Where you talk to
Mm.
the person on the other side of a sales call like you would to your sister or your brother
Mm.
if you have siblings or your cousin, right?
Yeah, I definitely have
So
siblings.
yeah, it's chill. It's not like a big deal. And if they sign with you, great. If they don't, all right, someone else can help them. But
Hmm.
you're not putting all that pressure on yourself to
Yeah.
make sure you're perfect, like you might have been trained to be in the corporate world.
Yeah.
So I think just taking the pressure off yourself really helps as well.
Yeah, and we get to decide how much pressure to put ourselves or to put on ourselves when we're the ones in charge, we're the entrepreneur, and like you really get to say, like, I've had this situation come up with me this week. January is a very busy month as you work with accountants and bookkeepers, you know. Like we're recording this in January. I feel like my head's gonna explode every day. And I just noticed myself this morning really turning something into a very binary situation that is not in fact binary. Hardly anything ever is. And I was like, well, if I don't do this, then I have to do that. And both of those options are shitty. So, like, what am I supposed to do? And I'm just very frustrated. And then I was like, wait a minute, like, those aren't the only options. Like, why am I telling myself that? Why am I putting that kind of pressure on myself? Can I look around and see like what else is available to me right now for how I want to show up or respond to this client or do this work? So having that agency and that independence to say like, okay, like nothing's on fire here, nobody's dying. Like I can think about this differently.
I like what you just said, having the agency and independence, because when you know how to create more sales in your business or generate more leads, you never have that desperate energy. You're never like, if I don't make this sale, I'm gonna go broke. No, like you know how to get
Yeah.
another sales call.
Yeah.
People always need a bookkeeper. It's never
Yeah.
like this one conversation is gonna break your business. That's not, yeah. So it's not
Right.
binary, you were saying.
Exactly. And that to me, once I realize that I'm putting myself into that situation of it can be one thing or the other and both of them suck. Once I recognize that that's what's going on, I'm like, okay, hold on just a second. Like I can take a step back from that and be like, okay, like I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself and I'm the only like I don't even have a boss to blame. I'm it's just me. So it's more freeing and more liberating to be like, okay, let's approach this from a different angle. Can you tell us what does a typical day look like in your business, working with your clients, running your business? Kind of share with us what you've got going on.
Yeah, it is January, so you're right. A lot of my clients are know it's the busy season,
Mhm.
and it's basically January to April is like a whirlwind for a lot of my clients who are CPAs
Yeah.
and keepers. And money coaches also feel it too because all their clients are like, should I hire a money coach when I'm
Yeah.
ready to hire a CPA? So a lot of it in terms of my week or how my business runs, it's pretty, I'm pretty proud of the point that it's gotten this organized because I allocate certain days of the week for certain things. So for example, Tuesdays and Thursdays are my favorite days. It's when I get to meet all my clients for group coaching calls for sales. And then Mondays, Wednesdays are for me. So I focus on my own sales. And Fridays are for things like this,
Yeah.
like podcasts, interviews, collaborations, and the weekends are truly just for myself.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, I think it's a hard fought battle. I think a lot of people look at my schedule and they're like, "Oh, you could be working more," but
Mhm.
I came from that life of like working 7 days a week in your business. And something I think any CPA or bookkeeper here listening to this will appreciate is I believe that you could take a vacation during tax season,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
which
I've done it.
yeah, I'd love to hear your experience too, because I think it
Yeah.
takes a lot of confidence and courage
Mm.
to take a vacation or take a break during the time where you think your clients need you most, but you can do it if you prepare. Yeah.
Yeah. I started my business almost 2 years ago now, and I knew immediately that I was not gonna do taxes. The only tax return I'm gonna do is my own. I actually have a partnership set up with my mom for another thing, and I don't even do the tax return for that. Like, somebody else handles that for me. I do my own return, and that's it. And I knew I did not want to be working for anybody else during tax season doing that. I want to keep my bookkeeping. It's what I really actually enjoy doing. And I also know, like, every accountant who I've ever talked to is, like, sleeping under their desk on a Sunday during tax like, in April. That is not gonna be me, like, I'm not gonna go into business for myself to have more time and flexibility and agency and independence and then wind up like that. Like, I knew immediately that, like, I had to set that boundary and put a hard stop to that, so but in my previous job, we did do taxes as well as bookkeeping, and I took time off in tax season and it was a big dramatic thing because then I'd like come back and I'd get guilted into everything but whatever. Yeah, like it can be the case. It is possible. Now, are you going to be able to do it this tax season like in 2024 when this episode comes out? Maybe not because like it does require like some systems and support up front.
Yeah, I agree with you. It takes planning, and the biggest thing I've heard from all of my CPA clients are like, "This is my last tax season," and then we catch up later. Or I do with a lot of CPAs. I see this pattern. So if
Mm,
any CPA or accountant is listening to this, a lot of CPAs don't want to be CPAs. They don't want to stay in this industry.
yeah.
They say it's going to be their last tax season, but they don't have a plan for it, which is
Mm,
why it's so important to understand how to make more sales and have those systems in place so you can leave if you want to
yeah.
or outsource if you want to. So I do
Yeah.
agree. Even if you feel like it's not possible in 2024, do you have a plan to do it in 2025? Also, I'm going to challenge that. Why can't you do it in 2024? If
Oh
you can't.
yeah. Feel free to challenge me on that. Like it's absolutely possible. It's just gonna require some
Lots
effort
of
if you
planning.
don't already have the systems in place. Yeah.
Yeah, like you could, I mean, I know we're recording this in January, but if you start prepping in January, you could do it. You could do it.
Yeah. I think so many CPAs say like, "Oh, I'm just never doing another tax return again." But then they get like the payout like after all the invoices go out and everything kind of gets paid through April and May. I think a lot of them are like, well, I mean, this is, big bankroll.
It's kind of addictive, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
um it's great. Like you have this great cash month, and then during the summer
Mm,
months, it's all crickets. It's like a dry
hmm.
spell, a dry season for your business, and you're like thirsting over tax season again. You're like, dude,
Yeah.
why? I can't wait till it's January again, and then the whole
Yeah.
cycle repeats. But that usually comes from not knowing how to make more money in your business in the first place, right?
Yeah.
That's usually the cycle I see, and how to break that is, like you said, the systems and the sales.
Totally. I see that so much as like an abusive relationship, like toxic, but also like you abuse yourself with your commitment to like having those kind of hills and valleys in your business. I last year was my first full calendar year in business, and I by October was completely over that. I was like, no, I want to have I can't do this. Like it was highs that, had me like shaking, like serotonin boosts. And then I'd have the lows where I'm like, well, all of my accounts are like overdrawn. This is not how I want to do things. I want to have I want to have growth, but it needs to be like a steadier pace than up and down with a trend upwards. Like if you know anything about like math and graphs, like you know what I'm talking about. You
Mhm.
can have steady growth or you can have overall steady growth, but in the middle of it, you're doing all the up and down. And I emotionally can't deal with that, and I don't want to.
Yeah, I think a lot of the anxiety comes from, especially as entrepreneurs, looking at your business 1 month at a time. When you
Yeah.
look at it, take a step back and look at the
Yeah.
picture. Okay, well, I only made X amount this quarter, but I still have 3 more quarters to go. Like it's not too late.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think a lot of people don't realize how much time they have, right?
Mm.
Like it's January and
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem.
it,
That's me.
but I'm curious, like when it comes to just looking at the month to month, right? Does it cause anxiety? Because
Hmm.
I know it definitely spins out a lot of my clients, and what we teach is, okay, can you back it up and look at your whole quarter, right? Even if you
Yeah.
made X amount this month and it might be a low sales month for you, what did you do in the last 3 months, right? Does
Yeah.
that number still suck? If it does, then we need to talk about it.
Right. Then
It
you call
doesn't.
Row.
Yeah. If it doesn't, then okay, maybe the reasons. There's always a reason why you did well or you didn't go do well. There's
Mm.
something that happened. It's just
Yeah.
a problem to solve.
Yes, it's like putting a puzzle together, sort of. And I love puzzles. So, can you share a little bit maybe with us about like if you have clients come to you that are like, all right, I can't deal with the hills and valleys anymore, what do you help them set up to get them to that place where it's a little bit more consistent growth, but there's always like a good baseline going on? And I'm not even asking for myself. Like I'm just asking.
Yeah.
I think that is the case for a lot of people who are new in business, especially.
I think a lot of times this is good. I think the hill I'll die on is everyone needs to do lead generation like 24/7,
Mm,
365, because if you neglect that part of your business, then you will the current audience you have, you like think about a lemon, you squeeze all the juice out of the lemon, right? And then there's
mm,
nothing left. You need to go out and get some more lemons
yeah.
for your business. And I would say that's literally the first thing I work on with all my clients. We teach you the skill of lead generation, because if you don't know how
Mm,
to generate leads, how are you going to stay in business? You know,
yeah.
referrals are great. I
Yeah.
love referrals. They can be amazing clients, but referrals are not going to get you to $1 million, right? You need to have lead generation systems that do that for you.
Mm, yeah.
So that's where I would start. But I also want to add, what I notice with entrepreneurs is they take social media advice and it's not for them. Like you'll see
Mm,
influencers trying to give entrepreneurship advice, and I'm like,
hmm.
why is the CPA listening to that influencer when
Yeah.
they're separate things?
Yeah.
Uh, so I think looking at who's done what you've done and following that kind of path would be really helpful. But lead generation, the
Yeah.
biggest, most important thing I recommend.
For sure. The social media algorithm is a fickle bitch, okay? Like we should not be living our lives based on what she wants to see because no. Yeah, and I have talked about this specifically with so many of my guests recently is like that we see something on social media and it's not somebody who's in our industry, but we see them having like rapid overnight success and we're like, well, I want to get that. But they're not selling accounting and bookkeeping services. If they're a content creator, like their business is the fact that they have grown an audience and they sell the audience to like brands. They get like brand deals. They get paid to promote brands and products and such because they have a big audience. Like that's the product. So it's a lot different for us, accountants and bookkeepers and money coaches and all. Like we're not trying to build an audience to sell their attention. We're trying to build our audience so that people will know, like, and trust us and hire us for things. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, 100%. And something I've noticed as well is when you look at social media, you're scrolling through Instagram Reels or TikTok or whatever, you notice that people are kind of waiting for clients, right? I see this as like such a demotivating factor in the industry, in all industries, because I've helped bakeries and people outside of the financial industry as well.
Mm,
And the biggest mistake I see is people waiting for clients. They're kind of just sitting on
mm.
their hands and praying that a client will come to them in their DMs and be like, oh, please, like maybe today someone will save my business. And
Yeah.
what I always say is like, can you be like that? The proactive commercials, right, about acne is like, can you be proactive and actually go out and be in
Yeah.
the places where your clients are going to be? I teach the proactive pursuit, which means you don't just post and pray, you actually go and
Mm.
talk to your people.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's the biggest game changer, especially when you're still working on your first six figures in business. Because no one wants to hear that. They want to hear like the sexy thing of like go and create content all the time, which will
Yeah.
not work if you're a service-based provider.
Yeah, the hands-off approach of just post and pray or, just wait for people to come to you. I'm an Aquarius and that is how I love to live my life. I love to be completely detached from everything and everyone and also wanting to be noticed at the same time. But like that was me in the beginning of my business. And even though I was like specifically told, like I have a sales coach, I have, entrepreneurial community of people that are like, hey, like maybe go talk to this person or teach a class over here, contact, the Chamber of Commerce and I was just like not doing any of that because I was not willing to be seen. And you have to kind of get yourself to the point where you're okay with like people seeing you and you don't know about it, like putting content out there.
Let's talk. I think that's really
Yeah.
interesting. I love that you brought that up because I also had a huge fear of being seen. I didn't post on social media for probably the first year of my business, and we still grew. I think we made like 150K that year, but it
Yeah.
was not from content. It was like
Well,
kind of
you
like
said you were making the conversations,
we
like
were
you were
making.
going out and being like, hey.
Yeah, but it was, yeah, see, and that's the thing, it was all online. So if you were just looking at my Instagram page, you would
Mm,
never know. But if you kind of got access to my account, you would see all of the conversations we were having. And I think
yeah.
let's fit a certain personality type if you're not ready to be seen
Mm.
and go viral, if that's like your worst fear for anyone listening to this, if your worst fear is like being seen by millions of people and your nervous system is not ready for something like
Yes.
that, then I would say lead generation behind the scenes, like not
Mm.
contacting or not speaking in webinars or masterclasses or anything like that, but just talk to one person at a time. That could,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
agree. You're being seen, no one talks about how to fix it. They're all like, just willpower your way through it. And I'm like, no, you need to calm down, maybe get some therapy, like
Yeah.
things that don't have to do with just strategy all the time.
Nervous system regulation, I'm learning is such a huge part of this work. Like, yeah, the whole imposter syndrome thing, I think is like nervous system activation. Like, what if they find out that I'm not qualified? Or what if they find out that I'm like kind of not sure about this thing over here? You like link that to your survival. Like, well, then I'm gonna lose clients. Nobody's ever gonna hire me. I'm gonna die under a bridge. So
Your brain just goes there. It's like I would
immediately.
like just like gone if someone. if my reel pops off, but that's not true. I agree with what you're saying. It is
Mm,
nervous system regulation, but no one will tell you that until you get a little bit more into entrepreneurship, or if you're, really
mm,
blessed to have a good mentor that will tell you those things.
yeah.
What has really helped in terms of like the fear of being seen and nervous system regulation? I haven't seen this, and you could tell me if you've heard of it before, but it's called like
Hmm.
somatic therapy, which has a
Hmm.
lot to do with body work. But I hadn't seen a single business coach talk about it until I came across like a DEI expert
Mm.
that was focusing on it before. So yeah, like how have you handled the ups and downs of like your nervous system being all out of whack because of your business?
Yeah, like when I was talking about having like the hills and valleys of income and getting to a point in October where I realized I'm over this shit, like it's either I need to like fix something with my revenue or I need to work on the body stuff or both. And I've done EFT tapping. I just have had a lot of like panic attacks in between. Like they don't tell you how many times you're going to lay on the floor and be like, I'm dying. And then 20 minutes later, you're like, all right, let me go send an email. Like, and it is coming back to the body and recognizing that like you're safe and having like maybe a grounding practice. Like I said, I have a coach, and so not only do we work on like sales and content and marketing and launching and all that stuff, but we also work a lot on like emotional processing and learning how to find a grounded practice that when I do go there, when my brain does go to the, oh my God, a lot of people just saw that TikTok, what's happening? That I have like a practice that I can go to that's like I'm safe and secure. Like I'm in my home.
Mm.
Nobody's like coming to like do something to me. Like, and so it was really about getting out of my head, getting into my body, but also like the spatial awareness too. Like I'm actually not in danger. I am like, this is something that's like only being experienced inside my body, and it's like safe to be inside my body right now. So yes to the somatics work. The EFT tapping has really helped me a lot. Like repeating phrases while doing the tapping sequence has been very helpful. So those are kind of the things that I spent most of last year doing. When I decided to like use TikTok to grow my business at first, I was terrified, and now I've got like over 2,000 followers. I've made a lot of great connections over there, like not only just business stuff, but like people who have become my friends. And I've had several clients hire me that found me on TikTok. And I'm like, well, okay. Then I just need to like find that practice for myself so that I feel safe and secure and then go do the thing, because I see it as like the people that need my help are waiting to for me to like show up. So I need to go show up for them to help them and help my business.
It's yeah, I think a lot of times when you become a more seasoned entrepreneur, you learn that it's not about you anymore. It's really
Yeah.
about everyone else, right?
Yeah.
Like if you don't show up and do your job, someone might not have a business in a year, right? Or if
Mm,
you don't show up as who you need to be, and I think everyone needs a bookkeeper. But if you don't show up and do your work, then there's a lot of, I think the domino effect is very real. It's
yeah.
saving so many people from financial heartache and financial
Mm,
chaos if
mm.
you just showed up. And
Yeah.
I also thought something you said was interesting, like being very grounded
Mm,
is so important during like the selling process. I think
yeah.
people always want to talk about how much money they make, but no one talks about the rejection.
Mm,
The rejection that you have to go through and that your body goes through sometimes,
mm.
how to really cultivate that safety and be like, I'm okay. This one no is not going to be the end of me. I can still
Yeah.
survive because I know how to keep growing my business. I know what to do next.
Yeah, I think something that's helped me specifically with the rejection piece of it is that like I don't see somebody saying no to an offer or like, oh no thanks, or I'm not interested, or I can't afford it. Whatever their reason that they give me is like their reason to have, and that's fine. And I also like I don't even phrase it as a rejection. Like I still want to build a relationship with that person, especially if they're an entrepreneur. The whole like thing I'm trying to do is build community, not only grow my business, make sure I can like pay my mortgage and feed myself, but building community so that other entrepreneurs don't feel so lost and alone. So even if I'm like in the DMs with somebody and like giving them, here's the price, here's what I can help you with, like here's the link to schedule a call, and they're like, oh, like I'm just not interested at that time, but thank you. Like stay in touch with them. Like I make sure to comment on their things and have that relationship.
You're so right. And it's about reframing rejection as an opportunity to keep building connection. A lot of my
Mm,
clients, they they maybe have said that it wasn't the right time for them, but they've looped around. And when it was the right time, you're in the back of their mind, right?
yeah.
So every seed that you plant will sprout. You just don't know, right?
Yes.
And also just understanding, like I said before, it's not about you, right? Half of the time, we don't know what's going on with people. We don't know why they left you on red, or if they don't pay
Yeah.
your invoice, right?
Yeah.
I tell all my clients this: how can you just get more curious instead of
Mm,
making it about you? What if your only job was to ask more questions? That could save you a lot of heartache, I think, in
mm.
this too.
Yeah. Being curious, asking questions is so good because often when I get on like a consultation and I'm with the intention of like having that person hire me for something, it's like I kind of just need to let them talk. Like some people just want to be heard, and that's enough for them to be like, okay, cool, like let's do this. They just need to like kind of get something off their chest or talk themselves through it. Like once somebody says something out loud, like a problem, they're like, oh, well, I see now what the solution is. And I'm like, awesome. Like, and here's part of the solution is like my role in this for you. So giving them the space, getting curious and asking questions is such a good, I don't want to say like tactic, but it is like it's tactical, like shutting up.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times people are trying to prove themselves on a sales call. They're
Mm,
like, I gotta show this person I'm the
yeah.
best person for them. And I'm like, just stop and then
Yeah.
just talk to them like they're
They
a
don't want
person.
to hear about it.
They don't want to hear about you. They want to talk about their problems. So just let them talk about their problems. And
Mm,
you mentioned the objection, like, I don't have enough money or whatever they
mm,
say. And I really like to look at that as just icing on the cake. It's superficial, right? If
mm.
it's a 5-layer cake, what's at the
Yeah.
first, if you're just at the icing, what's
Yeah.
all the way at the root of the problem?
Mm,
And a lot of people just psych themselves out that they can't even understand they need to get to the root. They just look at the icing and be like, all right, I need to get off this call. I need to stop talking to this person because they're taking it so personally.
yeah. Yeah. And taking things personally is a great way for people to not want to talk to you ever again. Like, it's not a personal thing if somebody literally does not have the cash to pay you right now. It doesn't have anything to do with you. It doesn't mean that your price is too high or that that's not valuable.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen that before too, where people will come back just because you understood them, or even if it was, whether they truly couldn't pay you or some other reason, just accepting it with grace and
Mm,
also getting curious of like, okay, well, when will this be a priority for you?
yeah.
Or when do you want to do this? Like we don't have to do it now, just as long as you have all the facts and
Mm,
take the pressure off.
yeah. Can you share with us, and you don't have to if you don't want to, but if you started doing this kind of work while you were still like employed somewhere and then you got to a revenue point where you could go full time with just being an entrepreneur, or did you just clean cut like break away from the corporate world?
That's a good question. So I'm happy to talk about it. I mentioned how in my first year of business, we already made 6 figures and I was
Mm-hmm.
making more in my business than I was in my 9 to 5. The whole reason
Mm.
I started my business because I was angry. Angry because
Yeah.
people would be talking down to me about
Mm.
finances, and I didn't have the credibility. I couldn't source another woman of color to be like, oh, this person on
Mm.
this TV show taught me this, but the other guys could. So I was just really angry, and that's what made me start my business. I was like, screw it all, like I'm gonna make sure all the women get to the top. Um,
Uh-huh.
but at the end
I
of that
appreciate you for that.
end of that first year, I was like, oh wow, I've made more than I've ever made in my life. Like, should I quit or should I continue on in my business? So what I focused on was getting 1 whole year of savings, and then I made
Mm.
decision to leave. And I remember every conversation I had with my boss, I always looked at it as a joke. I'm like, I'm making so much more money than you. Like the people who talk down to me, I was like,
Yeah.
don't know what you don't know. Like I'm gonna help so many people. And then I ended up leaving, but I had a plan to leave. I was in my first year, I was working my 9 to 5 and running my business at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
everyone knows who is doing both. It can be a stress on your schedule.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important. I think, to juggle a 9 to 5 and start your business, how to run a business while also having that much responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people make the assumption that as soon as they quit their job, they'll make more in their business. That's not necessarily true if you
It
don't have a
wasn't
plan
true for
for it.
me.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, if you don't have a plan for it, then you'll just keep doing the same thing. Also,
Mm,
the financial stability piece, if I did not have that year of savings, I'm pretty sure I would have freaked out and tried to get another job. But
yeah.
as I had like a solid just cash in my account, I was like, okay, I can last a whole year and I can do what I want. And even if this doesn't work out or I have to get a 9 to 5, I'll be okay. But if I didn't have that cash, I don't know. I don't like we talked about nervous system regulation.
Mm-hmm.
My emotions and my feelings would be all over the place. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And giving yourself kind of that support and security from the beginning probably helped you be more successful quicker, I would imagine.
I was able to take a lot more risks when you have I think everyone is in love with that story of like I quit my job as soon as someone pissed me off and I was like, but did you like it's like you really because is did you have money? Can you pay your rent the next month off your
Mm-hmm.
business? And I get really curious when I hear stories like that. But then you also have to look at the nuance, right? Was
Mm-hmm.
their spouse supporting them?
Yeah.
Did they have another 9 to 5? Maybe they were working 2 9 to 5s and had their business. So
Yeah.
I always think like when I look at those stories, I have to think about the nuance, how much they saved, how much they earned, what they realistically are spending in their day to day.
Yeah.
There's so much that goes behind it when you're handling your business and leaving your 9 to 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Like having the details or the information up front so that you can make an informed decision is like definitely why I do what I do because I help people kind of make sense of their numbers. I help them look at like whether something is feasible, if they want to hire a new employee, or if they need to like become, make the election to be an S corp and then they have to go on a salary, like helping them make those choices but having the actual data to back it up is like such a big part of what I do. And I was one of the people that was like, I'm just gonna quit. And I had like savings. I'm married. He has a salary, so like we have consistent income, but it definitely dropped off for a while. And it has been a grind, but I'm like, I just wouldn't do it any other way. Like I just needed to do that. I needed to be kind of like out of that situation and it still is the case that like sometimes I have to pull money from different places to like make the bills happen. But it is a different kind of nervous system work that I do for that.
I also think your skill set with money gets stronger when you
Mm,
do leave a 9 to 5 because you don't get a check all the time, like or
yeah.
that check will fluctuate depending on how you take owner's draw and
Hmm.
distributions and all of that. And even though it's scary, I'm like, I'm learning a new skill. Like sometimes I have to
Yeah.
look at it that way. It's like, all right, I'm paying myself this month, but I can maybe contribute this here, or I can hire this person that's going to make me more. It stretches your way of thinking and it's uncomfortable. It's easier said than done, I think. A lot of
Hmm.
people, it's hard in the moment when you're looking at your bank account and you're like, I got to pay this employee and this
Yeah.
contractor. How am I going to pay myself? But then you
Yeah.
look back a year later and you're like, damn, I did that. I
Hmm.
did that,
Hmm.
Not a lot of people can say it.
And I'm still here. I survived.
You're still here and congratulations. You said your 2 year
Thank you.
anniversary. That's
Yeah.
such a big deal. Um,
Yeah, it's
you have to celebrate
exciting.
every milestone.
Oh, for sure. And I try to remember to do that because it can easily pass you by if it doesn't feel like a big deal, but we have to notice it and make it a big deal for ourselves in order to celebrate those milestones. Like every little bit counts, I think. You mentioned like financial management as like a skill set, and I know that your sales philosophy is kind of based around the idea that sales is a skill that we can develop. Can you tell us a little bit about what we might do to start kind of honing those skills? If we're in the place right now where we're like, and I just suck at sales, like I feel so gross, like what are some practical steps that we can like maybe take today to really start working our way towards building that skill?
I would say, as someone who had launched a lot of businesses and have lots of empty Instagram accounts before I had this, I swear, like I have an Instagram graveyard of just empty Instagram accounts. And I've read every business book that you could find on like that top business shelf on Barnes and Nobles.
The
I wish
Atomic Habits or seven whatever or
everything,
something.
all of that nonsense. And
Yeah.
I wish someone had just told me to pay someone to figure it out. Because I remember for 6 years I wanted to start a business pretty much since I was um like in college at my first 9 to 5. I was like, what is the secret? Let me just read books,
Mm.
listen to these podcasts. And I wish someone had just taped it across the Barnes and Noble shelf. Like, just hire someone, damn it. Even if it's
Right.
spending $10, I think is better than just consuming free knowledge. But
Mm.
if you're not ready for that yet, then if you want to focus on your sales, I would say find someone who's in your industry that specifically focuses on your industry, and that will help you so much. Because I think a lot of people listen to like
Mm.
Gary Vee or like the most viral person who's giving entrepreneurship advice, but might not pertain to you at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So listen to the person that only works within your industry if you're not
Mm.
ready to invest in yourself yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, like we were saying before, if you were comparing yourself as an accountant to a social media influencer content creator that is like just doing brand deals, it is kind of worthless for you to sit there and make that comparison and try to like force yourself to do something that way when you could work with somebody that's like, I work with lawyers or I work with accountants or doctors. Like there I have clients that are doctors and they are in a specific, not only just doctors in general, but their specific medical practice, like niche. And they have people that help them develop business strategies and coach them through all of that. And it's like, if they can help all these other people in that specific niche, then they for sure have the tools to help you. So, yeah.
Like your example, and I'll mention something that my mentor has always told me is if you need heart surgery, you're not going to go to a GP, general practitioner. You're going to go to a heart surgeon, right?
They won't
Why?
even do it for you. They're like, no, go talk to the heart surgeon. Like,
Yeah, right. You don't dare step into their office. I think it's the same thing when it comes to business. Like, find the right person for the right like procedure. If we're talking medical terms, like find the
mm,
right person for you and see if they've
yeah.
worked with people before. I think you could save yourself a lot of heartache by even asking, have you worked with anyone who has my
Mm,
title? Or even like
mm,
going through their testimonials and be like, where's this person that looks like me? Where's this person that does what I do? And then you
yeah.
kind of have an answer.
My sales coach, I know, has another client that is an accountant, but her business is in accounting. She has a different type of business on the side. But my coach had her mom does payroll and bookkeeping. So
Mm.
like I don't know if she's had another bookkeeping client, but she's got me. But all the time she's telling me like now I know where you're coming from because my mom has done this work so much. So like I appreciate that like I don't have to kind of explain some of those things about like how January is busy. She's like, okay, like I will just accept that that is the case for you.
The baseline, right? It's like you're talking, I think it's um like you're talking the same language. You don't have to
Mhm.
spend a whole month catching them up because they just understand
Yes.
your lifestyle and who you are, your person.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's like you're both speaking the same language at the end of the day. But
exactly.
overall, if you want to get better at sales, just spend some money to learn it. I think I
Yeah.
wish someone had told me that. I'm like, just even if it's $10, just put your money where your mouth is and hold yourself accountable. Because
Mm,
consuming free knowledge, you show up in a different way than when you
yeah.
actually pay for that knowledge.
Agree. And if you are trying to develop your sales skills with like potential clients, you're not getting like honest feedback as you are with somebody that you've paid to like help you develop that skill.
Mhm.
There's a different kind of dynamic that like if you're doing consults with potential clients and you're practicing your Jesus Christ, sales skills
Yeah.
with that person that you want to hire you, they might not be honest with you about like the things that you're saying, how they're landing, and that feedback might not be as good as somebody that like you've paid to tell you, like, do not say this thing, or like, I want you to lean more into this, or you need to shut up and like let the person talk.
That's so important. I always I tell I warn my clients beforehand. I'm like, I'm gonna rip your sales part calls apart. I'm gonna rip your launches apart because you need someone to give you the unfiltered truth.
Mhm,
But when you go to a friend or a family member, they don't want to hurt your feelings or
mhm,
they're kind of tiptoeing around the truth. It's my job to make sure
mhm.
that you get this done. I think that's the difference with free help versus paid help, right?
And then there's another level of nervous system activation when Ro is tearing your business to shreds
I always say
to
like
help you.
I was what do I always say? I say I I do it with love. You know, I always preface that before I send something. I'm like, hey, I know this is going to be
Sent
hard.
with love.
It's sent with love because I always think, you know, if I'm not honest, and I think this applies to bookkeepers too. Like, you could the problem can stay that the problem can keep going for a year, or if
Yeah,
you just did what you needed to do and were honest, you could solve it in like a day or two,
yeah.
right?
I wish my
And
clients would listen to me when I tell them like, don't do this, or you need to make this choice over here. I don't tell them what to do, but I'm like, something needs to happen. Here's the options. Please pick one. And then they ghost me. Like, okay.
guide them, put in red letters. Sometimes the formatting matters as well.
Bolded, underlined. Yeah. All of that.
Underline. Like, you know what? Since I work with so many people in the financial industry, a lot of people tune out when they're
Hmm.
talking about money, but
Hmm.
there's some keywords like IRS that gets everyone's
Oh
attention,
man.
right? So
Everybody's shitting themselves when they hear about taxes. Yeah.
exactly. So it's also like learning how to, and it also is important with the sales process, right? Because you mentioned how you're not trying to convince anyone they need a bookkeeper. You just want them to come on the call and be like, I need the value that she's providing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really getting the client or the person on the other side of the sales call to have that level of self-awareness. And you can
Yeah.
just do your best by asking reflective questions.
Yeah, totally. I love that. And I just want to thank you for like sharing all of this beautiful knowledge with us and especially speaking to
Thank you for
the
joining me on
reality
this
of
episode of
sometimes
Money Through
needing to
Ease.
work on
If
your
you found
feelings
value
before
in
you work
today's
on your
discussion,
business.
don't forget to
Unfortunately, I'm
subscribe to
so
the
sorry to
podcast and
let you
leave a
know
rating
that.
and
But
review. Your
can you
feedback
share
really
with the
does
audience
mean
where
a
we
lot
can
to
find
me.
you, how we
And
can work
if you're
with
ready to take
you?
the first
What do
step
we got to
towards
do to be in
organized
your world,
finances,
in your
be sure to
orbit?
download my free
Yeah,
receipt
so
organization
you
guide,
can
Chaos to
follow me
Calm. Visit the
everywhere,
link in the show notes
website,
to grab your free
TikTok,
copy
YouTube,
now.
Instagram. It's
Remember,
all the
your financial
same. The
journey starts with
Rosha,
small steps.
THR,
I'm here to support you every step of the way. Until
THROSHAH.
next time, this is Reagan
And if you're
Bashara from
interested
Money
in
Through
learning about
Ease.
more
Stay
sales and lead
empowered.
gen, send me a DM. We're doing a training in June. We have one every quarter, so you could get sales training live. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Oh, sorry, my dog's barking. Uh, Thanks, Rose, so much for being on Money Through Ease. I really appreciate you reaching out to me. This was an awesome conversation, and everybody make sure to go check out Ro on all of her website and social medias.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks.